Okay, what if I told you the secret to a perfect night's sleep wasn't some new mattress or a fancy pillow, but something much, much simpler? Today, we're going to dive into the surprising science of temperature and sleep, from our own internal thermostats to the one that governs the entire planet. So let's kick things off with a simple idea, one that sounds, well, a little bit weird, honestly. I know what you're thinking. Socks in bed. Especially if you're someone who overheats at night, that sounds completely backward. But you gotta stick with me on this one, because the science behind it is absolutely fascinating. And look, this isn't just some old wives' tale. We're talking about credible sources like the Cleveland Clinic, confirming that, yeah, this can actually help you fall asleep faster. So, how on earth does warming up your feet help you sleep? The answer is all about your body's internal thermostat. So, here's the big secret. To even begin to fall asleep, your core body temperature actually needs to drop by a degree or two. That little drop, it's a critical signal to your brain that says, okay, time to shut it down for the night. The magic trick behind all this has a pretty fancy name, distal vasodilation. But don't let the term scare you. It's actually a really simple idea. When your hands and feet, your distal parts, get warm, the blood vessels right near the skin open up wide. This lets blood rush to the surface, releasing heat away from your body's core. So, paradoxically, warming your feet helps cool you down where it counts. This really lays out the whole chain reaction perfectly. You warm your feet, maybe with socks or a warm foot bath, then those blood vessels expand. This whole process basically acts like a radiator, venting heat from your core. Your brain feels that core temperature drop, and it gets the message loud and clear. It is time to go to sleep. And this isn't just some neat theory about wearing socks, not by a long shot. Scientists have tested this core cooling idea in some really interesting ways, and they all point to the exact same conclusion. Okay, so check this out. This slide shows two amazing studies that get to the same result from totally opposite directions. One study found that a warm foot bath, warming the feet, added over 43 minutes of sleep time. That's huge. But then another study used a special cap to cool the brain directly. For insomniacs, it brought the time it took them to fall asleep down to just 13 minutes. See, both methods work because they're helping the body do that one crucial thing, regulate its temperature for sleep. So, we get it now, right? This temperature balance is delicate, and it's super important. Now, let's zoom way out from the bedroom, because this fundamental biological process is actually facing a global threat. To really get their arms around this threat, researchers launched a massive study. I mean, they weren't just looking at a few dozen people in a sleep lab. They analyzed data from over 7 million individual nights of sleep. And you can see from these maps just how they did it. They gathered anonymous data from wearable fitness trackers, the kind many of us wear every day, from all across 68 different countries. They paired all that sleep data with local weather records, giving them this incredible real-world picture of how the environment outside is affecting our sleep inside. And the conclusion they came to? Well, it was crystal clear and pretty concerning. As our nights get hotter because of climate change, our collective ability to get a good night's sleep is slowly being chipped away. Our bodies are basically struggling to cool down in a world that's warming up. And you can actually measure the effect. On nights when the temperature stayed above 25 degrees Celsius, that's about 77 Fahrenheit, people lost, on average, over 7 minutes of sleep. And on those really hot nights above 30 Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit, that loss doubled to more than 14 minutes. Now, you might think, 7 minutes, 14 minutes, what's the big deal? But when you multiply that by billions of people, night after night, it becomes a massive public health issue. But it's not just about all of us losing a few minutes here and there. The problem is actually much more serious, because this burden of sleep loss isn't being shared equally at all. In fact, as the researchers themselves put it, the impact of climate change on our sleep is creating substantial geographic inequalities. In other words, some groups are getting hit way harder than others. And the study really zeroed in on 3 groups that are hit the hardest. First, people living in lower-income countries who just have less access to things like air conditioning. Second, older adults, because our body's ability to regulate its own temperature naturally declines as we age. And finally, the data showed that women were more affected than men. So this brings us right back to where we started. While we're facing this huge global climate challenge, the exact same science we've been talking about gives us some really powerful tools to manage our own personal sleep climate. All right, so here's your personal toolkit.
You can definitely try the sock trick. Just make sure you use something breathable like cotton. And as you can see, you want to avoid anything too tight that could cut off circulation. A warm foot bath can work just as well. And of course, the classic advice holds true. Keeping your bedroom cool really helps your body with that all-important cool down process. These are all small actions that use that powerful biology we've just unpacked.
All of this leaves us with a much bigger question, though. Simple hacks like wearing socks can absolutely help you tonight, but what about tomorrow? As our nights continue to get warmer, how are we going to adapt to protect one of our most vital biological functions? The answer is probably going to involve a lot more than just our sock drawers. It's going to require us to rethink how we design our homes, our cities, and really, our collective future. Thanks for watching.